Okay, folks, so I'm live here, and I'm doing a live show here talking about this upcoming transit of Jupiter, this pileup of planets that we're going to have, this major pileup of planets that will happen in Capricorn next year. This is also, sort of formally getting into announcing that you can get the 2020 Vedic forecasts for your sign at the website there, My 2020 Vedic Report. So you can see how these things I'm going to be talking about here that are upcoming in 2020 are going to affect you. But there is a very major pileup there in Capricorn that is going to affect us all for much of the year. And I'm going to be talking today here about this transit of Jupiter that's going through, that'll be going through. It starts the year in Sagittarius, but then goes into Capricorn here early in the year. You can see even by early March, it's at the end of Sagittarius. And then if we step forward a week, we see Jupiter a couple weeks here, 28, 29. By early April, Jupiter is going to poke his head into Capricorn, and he's going to be there until June. As you see here, he goes forward, then he goes retrograde. Now we're here at the end of June. So it's literally the end of March until the end of June. So for 3 months, Jupiter's going to poke his head into Capricorn. Again, it's kind of future pacing into next year and just showing sort of what's upcoming for us as Jupiter. We have him now in Sagittarius, but he's going to fly through Sagittarius pretty quickly. You see, even early January, mid-January, he's about 15 degrees. And at this point, he's combust. He's behind the sun. So when the planets are behind the sun, they're moving very fast. And so he's going to really fly through Sagittarius and poke his head into Capricorn. We'd like him to sort of hang out in Sagittarius for as long as possible. We're seeing this this major influence and major effect of Jupiter in Sagittarius now. I want to double back on what I've been saying about Jupiter going into Sagittarius for months now. And I said when he went into Sagittarius, we were going to see the truth, the evidence, the facts were going to come out, and we were going to see what's just and what's justice. And I want to, back up a little bit because this is live to even talk about where we are now. And especially, again, I've been talking about the politics and whatnot because it's very clear to see in our world. Here in the U.S., the politics are just bonkers right now with what's real, what's true, what's just, what's right. And I even mentioned, if you remember back a few weeks ago when I started talking about, or even more than that, even like a month ago, when I said that when Jupiter goes into Sagittarius, we were going to see like an impeachment. It could happen very quickly. And we're also going to see the other side. We're also going to see everyone who is saying, oh, no, the ones that are wrong, it's really the Obama, the conspiracy theories, all the conspiracies about one day, they're going to throw Obama and Hillary and all that in jail. They're going to investigate this, and it's going to come out, and we're going to see the deep state investigated and blah, blah. We just saw it. That quick. Look at how fast this happened. We had formal articles of impeachment. Again, the last couple weeks. Today there was a formal announcement. Yesterday there was a formal announcement that the IG, that the Justice Department, again, not talking about Bill Barr, who is Donald Trump's, basically his personal lawyer as head of the Justice Department now, which is really unfortunate. But the entire apparatus, what's called the IG, the Inspector General, they just investigated this for 2 years. They investigated the investigation and found absolutely nothing to support any kind of conspiracy theory. Yes, they found some mistakes because this is what they were doing. They're objective, they're objective investigators. And they said there were some things that were done wrong with the FISA warrant, and they're determined to fix it and correct it. But the whole deep state thing has been totally blown out of the water. There was no impropriety. Okay. Again, I even said, wait and see when this comes out. I said it, a month and a half ago. Okay, you folks will have your day. They're doing an investigation. Of course, it's not going to satisfy those who are determined that this is just more of the deep state and blah, blah, blah. But the rest of us who are living in the world of sanity, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it in a pretty pejorative way, have said, okay, right. Again, even the fact that they did find some things that were wrong should be reassuring that it was an objective investigation. So again, I'm only bringing this out because we're seeing this sense of justice and the sense of truth coming out now, right? We had those people testify. Again, Jupiter in Sagittarius. What I said at the time is we're going to see it. We're going to see all of it. And look at how fast it's happened. Years of all of this. Years of the conspiracies and the this. Well, now we're seeing it. And what I had been saying the whole time, and I said it back when Rahu started to go through Gemini, what I said was that it's going to be harder and harder to maintain all of these conspiracy theories. It's going to be harder and harder to keep holding up all of this conspiracy, all of this, because Rahu going through Gemini is going to give us the facts. I said this the beginning of last year. Rahu went into Gemini in March. I was saying it 2 months before that. The Rahu through Gemini is going to be harder and harder to maintain all of this spin. We're going to get the facts. Now, again, we started getting the facts then. The Mueller report was released right as Rahu went into Gemini, and we did see it. But again, if you still wanted to be in your spin cycle, Jupiter was still in Scorpio. You could still maintain that, of course, because Barr also came out and whitewashed the whole thing. Okay, but as soon as Jupiter goes into Sagittarius, we have a whole new thing that is just beyond anything that we could, that you could spin away. So we've seen this now. Jupiter goes into Sagittarius. All of this is coming out now. So it's harder and harder for people to maintain this facade of, well, we just don't know. We can't figure it out. We can figure it out. Now we're seeing it very clearly. And again, it doesn't mean that some people won't still hang on to their conspiracy theory, darkness, all this. People asked me even when I was saying, again, I look back also because I remember the comments and the things people were saying. They were asking me, so when all this truth comes out, are those people who still believe in this stuff still going to believe in it? And I said, yeah, there's still going to be some people that no matter what, they're going to believe this. So you can't change that. That's always going to be cooked in. But for those who weren't sure, or those who are open-minded, or those, it's going to pile up so much that you're going to see very clearly. Again, just objectively, what the objective facts, especially that have been happening, for example, with the politics, so easy to see that, again, to make it even just very simple, aside from all of the wishy-washy, well, blah, 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 let's be very clear. One side presented evidence, the other side obstructed it endlessly. Trump had every opportunity to bring the people forward and release the documents that would completely exonerate him if nothing happened, and he chose not to do it. He chose to block every person who is close enough to give direct testimony. So he blocks all of those people and then says, oh, it's all hearsay. It's all hearsay because first of all, it's not all hearsay, but the people that could give the direct testimony, they blocked. And this is the direct testimony that would exonerate, not just direct testimony, direct documents, all of the documents that could incriminate, and if he was innocent, would incriminate, and an innocent person would be enthusiastic about letting those things come forward to exonerate. All of those things that could exonerate and those people that could exonerate have been prevented. That in itself is the slam dunk where you should say, well, that is obviously what a guilty person would do. Because all the people that could show guilt or innocence have been prevented. So he wants to get into a safer place where the Senate's going to cover his butt. So again, all that's probably going to play out that way. But we're seeing the truth regardless. And I've never said that seeing the truth or the consequences means he's going to be removed or all of that. No, what we're seeing the truth, that's what I said. And that's what we're seeing. And again, not just the truth on this, but the truth on the other side too. The truth of, okay, you guys say it's all just a bunch of deep state conspiracy and that the real victim was Trump and the real criminality was the deep state and the FBI and Obama and Hillary and you know, what was that? Fusion GPS. Again, look at what came out. Even Trump was friends with Christopher Steele, the guy who did the Fusion GPS. So anyway, without getting so into the weeds, I just want to be clear about where we're at right now and the things that I've even been saying for months. And it's not just because I'm a great genius. I'm showing you this because I know what these transits mean. And by the way, these are also totally sidereal zodiac based. As soon as Jupiter left Scorpio, which is all the conspiracy theory stuff, still unsure, right as it was at the very edge, we had the impeachment thing open. And since then, it's all been testimony. Here it is. Here's the facts. Here's the thing. Here's the truth. Again, and right after that, that report was filed yesterday. To me, it's just fascinating. It's hard for me to not, I'm just blown away by how literal and correct and accurate this stuff is really playing out now. So, but where we're going now, as Jupiter sort of careens through Sagittarius, he's going to keep going forward. We see this is, through the end of the year. Again, this is all going to be while we're having like maybe trial in the Senate and stuff like that. This stuff, it could be very quick. Let's see what happens. There's a lot of things that could still shift. I've been saying the whole time, all kinds of things could happen. Trump is saying he wants this long drawn out thing again, because he doesn't know what's good for him. He wants this big pageantry. He better be careful what he wishes for, because you want to start calling Biden and all these people in Schiff. Well, then that's going to mean that they get to call Pompeo and Mulvaney, because there's no way that any, this is presided over by the Chief Justice, and there's no way the Chief Justice would allow one side to call a bunch of witnesses and not the other side. Wouldn't happen like that. So anyway, what McConnell wants to do is actually the smart thing. At least for the Republicans, let's do it quick, get in there, vote, maybe not even call witnesses, maybe have some very controlled kind of situation and get it through quick and get it done. I've said the whole time, anybody who's watched me says or knows, I've said what the Democrats, what they should try to do is drag this out as long as they can, because the longer it goes, I don't care what the conventional wisdom says, they are wrong. Longer it goes, the worse it is for him. Again, conventional wisdom be damned, they don't know what they're talking about, because they're on very shaky ground. They have really nothing to push back against. And so, this whole thing is not going to benefit. And someone just made a comment, which they're absolutely right. Trump may never be impeached. He may go on to win again in 2020. You're absolutely right. He definitely may. No question about it. And that is certainly that's certainly possible. Ann said Chief Justice doesn't make the rules. That's right. He doesn't make the rules, but he presides over it and has a very objective way to. He's presiding over it, so he can be overridden. Again, I don't want this to turn into a civics lesson, but all these things are true, and I'll just leave it at that here, because I want to get through the other stuff that we're talking about here. But all of those things are true, and of course I'm aware of all of them. I've looked at the 2020 election, and Trump looks very strong. Let's see it right now. But again, it could also be very, very, very negative, because he's also facing a lot of difficult, transits right now with all these planets piling up, and especially Saturn and Jupiter and all these planets in Capricorn piling up in his 6th house, which is, again, one of the things that I said at the beginning, is that we have, this major pileup in Capricorn is going to affect you. And it's very important for you to understand where this sign of Capricorn falls in your chart. And as I said, you can see this. I have a website, My 2020 Vedic Report. I have the Vedic forecast finished for this year. And you can definitely get your forecast for this year. And by the way, I just put the link there. If you click it, you'll see it goes to the website where you can register for that. The other thing is that I have the free class that you can get. It's actually more than an hour where I describe the 10 most important shifts from this year that will be, that are going to be influencing all of us. And that's at 2020vedicastrology.com. Put put that link in there because people also want to know. Well, I'll just put the direct link, but it's actually 2020vedicastrology.com is where you can get that as well. And, you know, these things are really, you know, really popping now. So Maui Horoscope says, can't wait to take your course. Well, I can't wait for you to do it either. You should register. You can certainly do that as well. And Amy says, Sam, thanks for all you do. You're welcome, Amy. Great to see you. Amy's a student who's been taking the course as well. But, you know, one of the things is that, you know, again, we're looking at, even when we speak about where these transits are happening, again, that major pileup in Capricorn is falling from Trump's 6th house. So this is why a big part, again, he's going to be facing some major stress next year. And let's run through the chart and you'll see what I'm talking about. So especially we have Saturn is already there. This is early February. Watch, you'll see Mars is going to go in there. We also have this Mars Jupiter here in early March. Then what happens is Mars passes Jupiter, and then now we have Mars Saturn here in late March. We're going to have Mars Saturn, and then boom, the next week Jupiter, all three in Capricorn. So again, this major pileup in Capricorn is going to be affecting a lot of our lives next year. There's no question about it, because we can see this whole pileup. So again, if you're a Leo, which is what Trump is, it's his 6th house. 6th house is enemies, and your enemies get really strong. It's the 6th house ruler in his 6th house. And again, he's also in Jupiter Saturn Dasha. So enemies get really strong. He's actually been having a lot of benefit with Saturn going through his 5th house. Right now, again, it's still been an auspicious transit. Once Saturn leaves the 5th house, which is going to happen in late January, when Saturn goes into the 6th house. This is why I'm saying he's experiencing some real grace now. We already saw it when Jupiter went over his Lagna. You know, basically those hearings was almost like he had a team of lawyers. They weren't even interested in gathering facts. They were interested in defending him. All they did was attack all the witnesses and offered nothing in defense. I say nothing in defense very clearly, because he offered no defense. They offered no one that could exonerate him. So this is why they keep saying there's no, you know, the facts aren't even being refuted. They're not. They're just attacking the process and the witnesses. But all that was with Jupiter aspecting his ascendant. That's past. Again, Jupiter continues through his 5th, but then Saturn goes into his 6th house. Again, this is why the heat is going to get really turned up. This is why I've also said, I don't leave it past that he could resign. I don't. I'm not saying I think that'll necessarily happen, but this pressure is going to get ratcheted up here. Look at the end of March, and then Jupiter pops his head in, and then Jupiter is there again from the end of March until the end of June. So again, this sign of Capricorn is going to be a major focal point. Look, Saturn, Jupiter there, both of them retrograde, blah blah, till like around the end of June next year. So wherever that sign of Capricorn is for you, you need to know. I'm talking a lot about Capricorn in the 2020 personal forecast for each person, but also in the free forecast that I'm doing, that you can also register for, that I link to in the at the website 2020vedicastrology.com. You can go there and also get that, where it's the 10 important shifts that are happening. Many of them revolve around this sign of Capricorn, but then we also have other ones where, for example, Mars is going to be in Pisces or Aries for months, from early June until the rest of the year. Or I'm sorry, mid-June. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's like late June, June 18th until the rest of the year. He's either going to be in Pisces or Aries. Look, boom, 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 boom. For the whole year, this is February 2021. So from early June until 2021, Mars is either in Pisces or Aries. So again, wherever these two signs fall, that's going to be really important as well. So just kind of foreshadowing a little bit of what's coming up in 2020. And I'm doing the main forecast, the main deep dive forecast of the 10 important shifts is done. But again, I'm doing this also just to highlight, if you wanted to see this for your chart, you can also check that out. The other things, of course, the nodes are going to change signs. So then we're also going to have eclipses. You can see nodes change signs, and then we wind up having the eclipses there. So I also talk about the eclipses and whatnot as well. But I wanted to say that this Jupiter transit is very important, because right now we're seeing that sense of justice and the truth coming out. And as I've been saying, it's harder and harder to maintain these wild theories when justice is at least shown to us. And in many ways, justice being served at least to those who want it, who want to see it. But then when Jupiter goes into Capricorn, again, this shows where justice itself can be, where it's harder to like remember our teachings on an individual level. This is going to be a time when, if you're a seeker or a teacher or a student, again, Jupiter being debilitated here means where your sense of hope and disappointment might be shattered. So this could show where after all of that, truth being shown, it didn't matter. It could definitely show that as far as the politics and stuff like that. Absolutely could show that. It could also show that disappointment on the other side of those people who didn't get the result they wanted. And maybe you see the polls start to tank, or all kinds of stuff can happen. But in a general sense, this loss of hope can show. But we also, again, have to see this in the context of these two powerful planets that are also there, Saturn and Mars. So Saturn and Mars are still also there, which means we have an exalted planet there. Even though Jupiter is debilitated, he's with its ruler, and he's with a planet that is exalted. So again, a debilitated planet with its ruler, that's a powerful Nichabanga. Debilitated planet with an exalted planet, that's a powerful Nichabanga as well. So there's a lot of Nichabanga on this debilitated Jupiter that can really show how it comes about and is less, difficult than we might imagine. But it's still a pretty intense transit for sure. And I just wanted to show you this as a kind of foreshadowing into 2020, and also to let you know again about these forecasts that I have that you can get, because they're now is really a time to also start to look forward. And again, you can get this, especially your personal forecast, at this website. I just set up the URL, My 2020 Vedic Report, so you can remember it instead of the other convoluted URL. And you can also get the free 2020 Vedic forecast there at 2020vedicastrology.com. A lot of people have already registered for this. That's obviously free. The personal forecasts only $20, and I go over each of those 10 shifts for each of the signs. Again, because you're going to want to know where Capricorn is in your chart. Again, if you're Pisces, it's your 11th house. If you're Aries, it's your 10th house. It's going to be a major source of focus. And so, those things are going to be really important next year. And that pile up in Capricorn for sure is going to be important. And so people have some questions. You can ask me a few questions as well. And so Christian said, this may be good for Trump. Well, good. Listen, we have to keep things relative. And I try to back up as well. Look, honestly, none of this is good. None of this is good for him. You have to take yourself out of it. It's not just a zero-sum game of winning, losing, winning, losing. This man has the stress of the world on him now. None of this is good. What he wants is to be winning or benefiting. Getting impeached is not what he wanted. To say it might be good because eventually he wins presidency, maybe. But again, it's very hard to say at this point. And it is, because you can see the fluidity of these transits. But if you mean it may be good ultimately, maybe. Again, it's hard to say at this point. Jupiter being debilitated is probably, again, it is sort of tricky, because while it's going through the 5th house, it's aspecting his ascendant. I'm sorry, while it's going through Sagittarius, it is still casting an aspect on his ascendant, but it starts to wane and get further away, as we're seeing now. again, this is not beneficial. I don't think this is beneficial ultimately for him as a candidate, because again, we also have to understand a few things. Even though we see, even when you just look at numbers politically, there are numbers like 90% of Republicans support him, but you have to understand what people identify as Republicans is ever more shrinking. What this is doing is polarizing everything. Look, a good re-election strategy is not to absolutely repel not just every person that didn't vote for you, but every person who was even wondering. And he's repelled so many of them already. Look, if I were not, I've looked at the charts and I've also looked at history, so I know that there are certain things that favor him, especially those transits around the election. But if I weren't looking at that at all, and I was just looking purely at numbers, he would be in very deep trouble simply because of the numbers. The problem also is that you have another party, and the candidates that they're going to be running don't look very good right now either. And again, so that definitely benefits him. So without getting too into the weeds about that, yes, it's certainly possible, but let's see how all that plays out. It's a very fluid situation. But anyway, so this will be very interesting, and I wanted to just show you a little bit of foreshadowing of what's happened recently with this Jupiter moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius, and how quickly. Look at how fast. It's because Jupiter just went into Sagittarius in early November. It's only been about a month. Look at what's happened in the last month. We've impeached a president. We've had trials in the Senate. In the House. We impeached we're about to vote on articles of impeachment of a president. We also had the other side come out. Again, like a month ago, people were like, oh, you wait. It's going to come out. The deep state's getting investigated. Trump's own Justice Department just said, this is ridiculous. It's been utterly repudiated. Again, because these are professionals. And all this deep state stuff, again, it's just people who don't know what they're saying or know what they're talking about, fomenting these conspiracy theories. And again, those of us who've been watching this for decades, which I have, understand this. And I can tell every time someone goes, oh, it's deep state, Nancy Pelosi, deep state, deep state. These are anything but deep state. These people are as obvious with what they're doing as possible. They're political animals doing all this stuff right in your face. There's nothing deep state about any of it. People see something they don't like and they call it deep state. People want to put blinders on to overt, if not criminality, but lying and obvious stuff. And they want to put blinders on and they say, deep state, deep state. And unfortunately, now Trump has an attorney general who is in the bag for him as well. It's very scary in this regard. It's quite scary in that sense. But we're seeing that as well. And those who want to continue to maintain this fiction, because it's a fiction. Again, Barr now has this other guy investigating. I forgot his name now. I can't remember, with the beard. What's going to happen is eventually he'll come back with something that Barr can hang his hat on and say, see. It's just crazy. It's just sad. And it's to show us something. Again, people like to give me a hard time because I call this stuff out, but I'm not saying all of this is wrong in the bigger scheme as well. What I've said and maintained over and over again is that we have such a terrible, corrupt system of politics, and a country that is so deeply divided, and a legacy and a culture where a bunch of white people have been holding on to power for so long and they don't want to let go of it. And Obama came and represented, he didn't actually legislate, but represented this kind of change where diversity and in all ways became so in our face. This culture war, we're having it out. This is why I said, I want to see the circus now. I want to see it blown up, because I know if it gets blown up, I want to see a long, drawn out, pardon my language, shitstorm. That's what I want to see. We need to see it. It's better than all this conspiracy, hidden, triggering crap. No, let's get it all out. Let's get it all in front of the cameras. And this is Jupiter in Sagittarius. Let's get it all out. And Jupiter's going to go into Capricorn and then go back. So it could very well be that we're going to see this stuff blow up. The consequences aren't going to play out the way some of us want. but then Jupiter goes back into Sagittarius again, then starts to move forward. It's a long cycle. It's a long transit, right? So I'm just showing you this here, and it's, you know, it's all meant to reveal what's the, you know, what's underneath it all. We're seeing it. And again, people will seize on, oh, you're racist against white people or whatever. You know what? I just call things out. I'm not politically correct. I'm just saying what's happening. The demographics are changing. We know it. It used to be a majority white country. Very soon it's not going to be. And how can we say that a lot of Trump's appeal is not to white people? We have demographics. We have the data. This is why he's president. Rural white people. If you don't want to look at data, fine. If you think it's just me being racist, that's fine too. I'm look at data and facts. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong or they're racist. I didn't say any of that. It's a lot of fear. That's why he does nothing but fearmonger. Fear of the others. Fear-mongering. Deep state. This. All this other stuff. All of these poor immigrants are the reason your life sucks. This is what Trump has been saying. Instead of, all these poor people are the reason your life sucks. Now let me pass this ridiculous tax cut for all these rich guys. To me, it's sad because this is the shell game. And this is why the Republicans cooperate. No other reason, because he's successful at it. He's like everything they've wanted to be for a long time. Almost like overtly in your face using race to divide while they give away tax breaks to all the crony capitalism. And by the way, I'll say this to upset everybody. Obama wasn't much better. Yes, he was better on social issues, of course. But on business, they're all a spectrum. This is why people think, oh, you're just Hillary, Democrat. No, I'm not. I'm not for any of them. This system is utterly wrecked. They're all in the bag for businesses, endless campaigns, businesses and rich people buying politicians. And the whole thing needs to get blown up. So we are having it out, and we need to have it out. We should have it out in front of the camera for everybody to see. And, he could get 4 more years too. Who knows at this point? No one knows. I don't care who you are. You don't know. And when I look at the trends, just to say this, at this point, with the Jupiter in Sagittarius transit, which is when we're going to have the election, what's happened most of the time is incumbents have won by a landslide. That's been the trend. The other two, except for incumbents winning by a landslide, you had JFK and Obama. So we're either going to have a reformer, which I think will be one of the socialist candidates or ones they call socialist, Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. I hope it's Bernie Sanders. That would be awesome. I think Bernie Sanders would mop the floor with Donald Trump. I think it wouldn't even be close. Bernie Sanders, I think, is the best candidate at this point. And I think he would mop the floor with Donald Trump. Absolutely. But it could be Elizabeth Warren, and then I think she would lose. If it's Biden, God knows what's going to happen. Who knows? I think these are the likely 3. So, again, you have to wait and see. You can definitely see why he's going to be empowered because of his transits, but they're definitely not great for success. They're great for something, especially they're great for cheating the election with all this Rahu energy that's happening, but I'll get into that later. So, I'm just calling it the way I see it. And the system itself and the changing demographics in this country are all colliding to bring us to this point. To me, as an astrologer, watching and tracking the transits, that's what I find fascinating. And I talk about the politics as honestly as I can, even though, I will let you also know something. There's a very smaller and smaller number of people that just eviscerate me when I talk about this stuff. When Trump first got elected, I do videos where I would just be honest about his, business interests. And he's definitely not absolving himself of his business and all of the emoluments and all of this stuff. And I would just get descended upon. It would probably be maybe 25 to 30% of the comments would be harsh. It would be maybe 25 to 30% of the videos had dislikes to likes. Like there would be 100 people would like it and maybe 35 would dislike it. The like to dislike ratio was way disproportionate. Now it's maybe about 10% or less and hardly any comments. And all the comments are by what I call trolls, which are anonymous people who won't show their face and they just show up and say something stupid. Sorry, but that's what it is. Like, oh, MAGA, or you're just Hillary, or some other Fox News talking point. Again, this is also a function of truth, guys. Notice it. I'm just letting you know the ratio has changed. Especially it gets worse and worse for these people that want to uphold this false BS narrative. It's harder and harder now because you have to, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for people that would like to consider themselves to be intelligent. It gets harder and harder to maintain that, yeah, this guy, who is maybe the dumbest person we've ever seen in public life, sorry if that offends you, but it's true. He's the guy who's right, and everybody else is wrong. Let's see, who's wrong? The whole FBI, all these career people, everybody else who has nothing to gain. Everybody else is wrong except this one guy who can't seem to ever tell the truth. I mean, this just gets harder and harder to maintain by anybody with self-respect. So the ones that do show up are, you know, Snowflake 108, oh, you're just a Hillary, blah, blah. Or these other people who want to just, they don't have any arguments. They just want to show up and say you're an idiot or something. I had someone on a video, you know, I just let the comments stand now. I let the comments stand and say, why am I an idiot? Again, it's some anonymous person, but I'm bringing this out. It might sound like I'm being so hard and ridiculing people. First of all, I don't feel guilty about ridiculing anonymous internet trolls. Okay, you deserve ridicule. You should get a life and stop doing it. I'm standing out there with my name, my face. You can look me up and say anything you want, and you're hiding behind your computer, just showing up and burning people with no facts. And so again, this is also something we need to see. This is the truth of what's happening in the world now. This is all part of the stuff I said earlier. Rahu going through Gemini. We're seeing, you should start seeing this also as something that we need to work out. Again, as Jupiter goes through Sagittarius, the truth of all of this stuff and a righteous understanding of it, comprehension and realization. Oh, right. This is also part of it is being revealed. It's being shown. So I'm just reflecting that part of it back to you too. No one really even contends this stuff anymore. And those who do are embarrassed, and they should be embarrassed. It's embarrassing, and it's sad for our country that we're going through this, and we're going through it this way. So anyway, aside from that, I did want to do this update on Jupiter going through, and also, again, let people know about the 2020 forecast that, of course, you can get. Again, I'll put the link again. This is a free forecast, and I've already got a lot of people have registered for it, of course. A lot of people have already registered for I'll put it in the comments here, free 2020 cast right there. And then you can get the forecast for your sign. So again, all of these placements are going to be, I examine them from each of the 12 ascendants in the My 2020 Vedic Report website. So on the free web class, I go over these 10 things in great detail. It's about an hour and a half. I also explain the transit of Saturn. I forgot to mention, I should do that too. But this transit of Saturn on the free web class, I explain that in great detail for each of the 12 signs, because Saturn is going to be in Capricorn for 2.5 years starting in January. And again, you're going to want to know this is literally like a Saturn update for each of the 12 signs for the next 2.5 years as well. So again, it's not just for next year. Saturn is going to be in Capricorn. Capricorn is going to be a very important sign for you for the next couple of years. But here in 2020, just like Sagittarius was really the big sign for us all this year. We had Saturn and K2 there. We had Jupiter going there, right? And so a lot of the year revolved around Sagittarius energy and working through what's real, what's righteous, what's just. Justice, law. Next year, Capricorn is going to be a major focal point. And Capricorn is like, let's get real. And it's really a sign of consequences. So again, this is why underneath it all, there could be some pretty heavy consequences. So we'll leave it at that. And, I hope people enjoyed this. And I know it might be stressful sometimes to get into the politics and stuff. It's kind of stressful for me. I don't like getting into all that. I don't like saying harsh stuff about anybody, including Trump or anything, or people that are doing stuff. I don't take any joy in it, frankly. I wish people didn't. I wish people weren't, like trolling anonymously and getting all worked up. Just see the stuff for the way it is. We're not each other's enemy. People that do that aren't my enemy. Honestly, I'm on your side. I probably agree with most of what you say if you take Trump and all that nonsense out of it. I get it. The system is horrible. We're all getting screwed by this corrupt system. And so you get people manipulate the system, and Trump is a master at manipulating the system, particularly manipulating people's fears. And it's like, oh, look at this. And now this diversion. Let me give all this tax break to the billionaires. Let's appoint all these justices to keep all these other issues afloat. So it's getting worked out. So I'm ready for the blow up. I want to see it. I hope it drags out. So anyway, all right, guys, have a good one, folks.